Well, welcome everyone. This is Carolyn Whiteman. I have the opportunity to host us this evening on our monthly OPA call. And we get the pleasure of telling you what OPA is. If you see on the front side of your screen, incidentally, let me stop for a minute. And Scott, would you re-mention, please, re-give instructions? Because if you have come in on the phone line, I think you may want to see some of the visuals tonight. So Scott, would you give instructions again on that? Then I'll pick up on the introduction.
Absolutely. On your computer, just go to www.freeconferencecall.com, all one word. Hit the join button, and our room name is OPA Stuff.
S-T-U-F-F, stuff.
Correct.
Great. So I think you will want to see the visuals tonight if you have the opportunity. And as always, these calls are recorded and will be available on replay, including with the visuals. And that is on opastuff.org. So don't get that confused right now. If you want to get live onto this call for the visuals, follow Scott's instructions. So it is my pleasure to welcome you, and I'd like to give the overview of OPA. If you look at our screen up on the right, you will see the butterfly and the rose and the water drop with OPA in it. And OPA stands for Organic Products Associates. And I had the good fortune of being with our mentors and leaders, Mary and Gary Loomis, right about the time that they made the decision to put that as a family name. And I'd like for you to think about a family tree, because I had the good fortune of working directly with Mary and Gary Loomis, as did some of the others of you. But what happened was this was in the early 1970s. Mary had the vision to say that this business organization would grow beyond the point where people would be able to identify with the name of the upline. In other words, most of you are not connected with being in the Loomis organization. You're in the Sheraton organization or the Stauber organization or various others, because this OPA organization has, I believe, 11 master coordinators. So many of you are not even connected, but we want you to know we're all part of the same family, and that's what OPA is. And so the face of our business now is Mary and Gary's son, Rob Loomis, who at the time that I met Mary and Gary, Rob had just left for Harvard Law School. So decades have followed, and Rob is the head of he's the face of the Loomis organization. And one of the things that he does is he organizes the business leaders so that we will, once a month, provide a topic that hopefully will be of value to all the people in the OPA group and any guests that you choose to join us. So with that introduction, I'd like to start out by talking about tonight's topic, and that is, let me back up and just acknowledge where we are time-wise on this planet. And we really are in a so much different place than we may have been 3 months ago, where people literally across the globe have moved into a new place where we're actually mostly operating from home. And one of the things that I'd like to just precede this with is a comment that was made by Roger Barnett, our chairman and CEO. Roger is a globally connected visionaire from a family of billionaires. And one of the things that Roger does is he attends a group called the World Economic Forum. And this is generally in January. It's in a very exclusive Swiss village called Davos. And you don't walk into this event. You come by invitation. And when Roger came back from that event at the end of January, now keep in mind the timing. This was the end of January, just the beginning of February when we heard his report. And one of the things that he said is that there are three things that the World Economic Forum is actually came away with as their global issues. One of them had to do with health. Hold on just a second. All right, guys. Background noises. One of the things that Roger said was that there were three topics that the World Economic Forum globally agreed were the biggest issues. One of them had to do with health, read into that immune systems. One of them had to do with protecting the planet, read into that taking care of our natural resources and being able to function with clean air and clean water and so on. And the third was income, the opportunity to create income for people under all circumstances. Now keep in mind that was the end of January. And think about how absolutely on track those three topics are for all of us now. Obviously, the idea of health and protecting our immune system, how important it is, the concerns about the planet, regardless of how you want to look at that. It's the planet that needs to sustain us, and here we are with a global epidemic which has impacted everyone totally across the globe. And the third had to do with income. And one of the things that we see now that has changed in creating income is the fact that people now need to be able to work from home. This opens up a completely new area for many, many people around the globe. But for us, who have had our own businesses, working from home is like no big deal. It is like what we have done all along. So when we think about the three major topics that are of interest globally, we are so fortunate that in working with Shackley, we actually can address all three of those needs. Now, that's my introduction to talking about doing businesses virtually, because we are all basically, we're basically at home. Now, for us, that's a wonderful plus. And what I'd like to do is have us envision tonight that what we are doing is, although we are working virtually, and we now have the wonderful ability to have the technology of Zoom and the connectedness, what I'd like for us to do is visualize that we are inviting a few people to our home and having them around the dining room table or around the patio outside, however we want to do it, and being able to create a virtual event that we do, although it's on the screen, be able to create the camaraderie that happens when you have people together. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to talk about some very cool resources. But the first thing I'd like to do is make a suggestion. And that is, if you are creating and hosting an event, let's say it's an event like tonight that we said starts at 8:30. We have changed the beginning time of all of our events to make it 15 minutes earlier, with the specific intention that you are coming into our living room, you're arriving in our house, you're coming around the backyard, coming and sitting around the patio, and not everyone arrives at the same time. And when they come in, it's nice to be able to say, hi Don, hi Scott, hi Sue, hi Alan, hi whoever is here, tell us, and in this case, we get to say, tell us where you're coming from. Because the reality is just of those people that we mentioned, I'm in Florida, Don is in New Hampshire, Scott and Sue are in Arizona, and the Sheriffans are in South Florida. Now, isn't it neat to be able to say we have people from all kinds of geographies that are able to be together? So we take that first 15 minutes and just have the opportunity to kind of visit. Tell me, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's asking what kind of hobby you're interested in. If someone is new, they have the opportunity to be introduced and welcomed. If they don't choose to be introduced, that's fine. But we can just kind of connect each other. I think I heard Earl in Southern California, and so it's nice that we have a global opportunity to be together. So with that introduction, I'd like for us to, what we're going to do tonight is, our friend Don Sykes, who is a colleague for many of us, he's an adopted part of all of our families, but Don has done some brilliant things with the idea of virtual events. And there are two different areas that I think that we'd like to talk about. One of them is the setup, the technology setup of how to create these virtual events. But the other thing is, what do I do in these events? What kind of a thing do I set up? So let's start out with this first slide as I introduce Don. And he knows that I'm going to make fun of this slide because some of us have been around the business for a while. And so Don elected to make the face of this particular thing a party, which is not a term that I'm particularly fond of right now, is what we're doing, but with all of these wonderful oldie goldie folks. And what I say is, Don can cover this, but what I say is that the technology that we have available to us not only brings generationally all of us into an opportunity to use these virtual events now, since we can't meet around each other's dining room table, but these tools are all available to us generationally. So even our grandkids and, the teenagers can use these kinds of things. So with that introduction, Don, welcome, and thanks very much, Don. Don has put together, he will tell you that he's been harping on this idea of virtual events for a handful of years. Because how many of us have said, gee, I'd like to have some people over, but nobody wants to come, and they want to drive across the town, and can't get people to come to my place. Well, now we are forced to do this virtually, and now we've got some wonderful tools that we can use. So with that, welcome. Please welcome Don Sykes.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. It's a real pleasure to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Well, Carolyn does hate this photo, and I love using it because it harkens back to those early years that you were talking about. You mentioned, Carolyn, that we all said over the years that we worked from home, but we weren't really working from home. We were going into other people's homes. We were making presentations at Starbucks. We were doing in-home events for many, many years. And, I've been around in Shaklee for quite a while. In fact, Carolyn, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I actually met Gary and Mary Loomis back in the late 70s. And it wasn't in a home. It wasn't virtual. It was a meeting down in, I think it was Hartford, Connecticut, that I met them down there.
Wow.
And only the one time, but I had some really nice conversations, and I remember both of them fondly. But Carolyn is absolutely right. Things have changed, and things changed rapidly because of what's going on with the pandemic and coronavirus. And so I am working virtually. I've always been working virtually, but I have my wife and daughter who also live at home, and they are home visitors. They work for an early intervention company, and they're working virtually. So people are getting used to it. But just to run back a little bit, for the past 5 or 6 years, I've been saying this is the direction that we need to go in. And it all stemmed from a meeting that I was at. It was down in Florida, and the senior leader was talking about the fact that he had a one-on-one in somebody's home that he was going to do, and it was an hour and a half away. And he said, I got my car, I drove the hour and a half, I got to their house, I found it. I went to the door, I knocked on the door, nobody answered. So he was pretty tenacious. He said, I walked around the house. I thought at one point I saw the curtains move. And, I thought maybe somebody was home, but I wasn't sure. Nobody came to the door, so I got in my car, and I drove an hour and a half to get home. And he was explaining how tenacious he is. I mean, you have to be dedicated in this business. And my takeaway is that, man, if he had just done this virtually, he would have saved 3 hours and could have been talking to 10 other people. And that's really the difference. I mean, that's what we're talking about here when we do virtual in homes. And people are more and more accustomed to working virtually. So what I want to do is talk about how to host virtual events. I do teach a course about it. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. But honestly, I'd love to have you guys get through this and just have an idea about how maybe you could expand your Shackley business by doing virtual events. This is the perfect time to do that. Carolyn touched upon that, and there's never been a better time to do it. I think that it was a good time to do this a year ago, but I still think it's even better today. So I want to talk to you really about combining in-home presentations, so getting into people's homes and using today's technology. And there's really two pieces to the puzzle that have come about. One is social media. I use the Facebook icon there, but if you like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever you like, it's fine. Social media really makes the power of virtual events stand out. And then finally, we got Zoom. And I love Zoom. I know we're not on Zoom. We're using free conference call right here, and this is working really well as well. And there's Google Meet. You can do Facebook watch parties. You can do, Facebook just announced these new messenger rooms that they're doing. But honestly, Zoom really works well, and so that's what I've stuck with. Just a quick introduction, a little bit about my background, and that really is what I'd rather be doing. I took that on my birthday. It's a selfie I took last August when I was hiking Monadnock, which is a local mountain. I'm a 42-year veteran in Shackley. I did get in the late 70s, and I really got in fresh out of college. My parents came knocking on my door. They'd just gotten into Shackley. They were very excited about it, and they were excited about nutrition. So they got me in and using nutrition and building an organization. And I'm so glad they did. Fast forward all those years later, and I'm paying, I am achieving all of the things I wanted to because I had good health all those years. So in addition to my Shackley business, I'm a marketing guy. I've run my own agency up here in Keene, New Hampshire, which is where I live. It's in the southwest corner of the state. I've literally designed hundreds of websites, newsletters, brochures, all of that. And the reason I tell you that is because I've also designed these event packs for the virtual events. And I've done a lot of work with social media as well. So quickly, the name of the class that I taught, and I just finished this, and the materials are available if it's of any interest. We'll circle back to this again, but it's called Hosting Virtual Events. And I want to kind of, by the time I finish talking, I hope everybody is thinking virtual events are the way to go. So let's talk about some of the reasons for doing it, okay? Why would you want to host a virtual home event? And this was true, in January, before everybody was at home, as well as it is today. Because honestly, and I've done surveys, I'm sure if I did a survey tonight and said, how many of you guys have done in-homes, a lot of you would say yes. A lot of you would say that you built your business doing in-homes. And then I would say, how many of you have done an in-home in the last year? And most of you would probably say no, because they're not the same. They're not as easy to do. People have moved. They're not happy going out at night. They kind of want to hunker down and shelter in. And geographically, they're everywhere. I have a sister in Florida. I have a brother in Colorado. And that's the norm. Families are moving away all the time. So you can reach more people. You can grow your team faster because there's literally no limits of geography. If you're doing it virtually, you can be anywhere. It's great for winning back dormant members and customers. Now I'm talking about the virtual events. And the reason here is you've got people that you sponsored 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and you haven't really talked to them. But let's say you're doing a virtual in-home event, and it's of a topic that you know is going to be interesting to them. So let's say that you call them up and say, Carolyn, it's been a long time since we've spoken. How are things going? You talk a little bit about that. And then you say, you used to really use a lot of Shackley products back in the day. And Carolyn would say, oh, I used to love them. Are they still around? And then you say, well, yeah, they definitely are still around. A lot of things have changed. I'm happy to tell you about that. But I'm having this event. It's virtually. You do it right over your computer, and I can walk you through some of those changes. You don't have to get dressed up. You don't have to leave your house, drive across town. You can come in virtually, and people are inclined to do that. They want to get back in. They want to learn more about Shackley. They just don't want to make a huge effort to do it. It's a great way to help new distributors reach new customers, and they can learn a process that they can duplicate. It's duplicable. You know, these virtual events you can use them, the same event, with different people. They're easy to do. You know, I'm doing this right now with you. I don't know how many are on, Scott, but we've got a whole lot of people on here. And I'm just talking. I'm sitting in my office and talking to all you guys. So they're very easy to do. You can introduce your friends to Shackley easily. Now, the reason I have that on there is because, you know, we all want to introduce our friends to Shackley, but we don't want to seem pushy. But if you invite somebody to a virtual event that's of interest to them, you know, they can come, they can not come. It's really up to them, but it's not putting out a huge effort. It's not really asking a whole lot for them to do it. They're viral. You know, because of social media, you can put the information out there and you get friends of friends to come in, which makes them great. They're great for finding new people, new customers, and you do that through social media. You do that through the fact that they're viral. And you can generate some real excitement about Shackley because you can show videos, you can tell stories, you can do all the things that you could do at an in-home, perhaps without tasting the product. I mean, that's really hard to do. There are ways around that as well. And you can reach people where they are right now. And this is specifically, you know, everybody's at home. One of the things that I've noticed with the pandemic that's going on is the fact that when I call somebody, they answer the phone. You know, they want to talk to somebody. So this is kind of a good time to do that. Just quickly talking a little bit about money. Well, earnings and volume. So let's say that you do an event and the average event does $400. You know, it could be $400 volume. It could be 400 points PV. Let's just say 400, okay? If you do 2 per month, that's 800 in volume. If you do 1 per week, that's 1,600 in volume. So think about that. Think what $1,600 extra PV or $1,600 extra volume would do for your business. And then finally, is it possible that one of the people who attend might want to do the same thing as you're doing? And of course it is. So I hope as I talk through this that you're kind of getting the idea that, you know, virtual events might make sense. I want to go through this quickly, Carolyn, because I can see I'm limited on time here. But I wanted to talk about, if you're going to pull this together, there's really 5 things that you want to think about. I call them the 5 pieces to the puzzle. And this is so important if you're going to do your own virtual event. If you're going to use one of the event packs, or if you're going to do one of the health chats that Shackley has, a lot of this stuff will be in place for you. But if you're going to do your own, the very first thing you need to do is design it for success. And I always tell people, design it with the end in mind. If you do anything, design it with the end in mind. What is it you want to get from your virtual event? Are you looking to find new members and new customers? Are you looking to find business builders? Are you looking to make a connection with somebody that's in your downlines group, you know, so that you can build in depth? Whatever it is, that's what you want to do. You want to promote it really well, and you have to take some time to do that. But the thing is, once you've done one, the promotions kind of fall into place. You're going to use social media posts, and you can put everything on social media. But you can also use texting to invite. You can do postcards. There's a million ways that you can reach people. There's no shortage of ways, especially today, and especially with social media. You want to start inviting for success. That's really the third piece to the puzzle. And this is important because you need to invite in the right way. You want to make it exciting for people. They want to come. You want to make sure that you give them some information that's going to make them want to show up, and that they know that they're going to have some fun. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Holding the event, that's number 4. And that's, first of all, practice, practice, practice. You know, I taught this course about 2 months ago, and we started talking about Zoom. And the assignment was, you know, practice, practice, practice with Zoom. Find a spouse, a significant other, a friend, a downline, and just practice until you're comfortable with it. And I am so comfortable now with social media. It's great, but honestly, when I first got into doing Zooms and doing webinars, I read from a script. You know, I had to do everything just the right way. So it gets easier. The more you do it, the better you get. But your goal, and this is during the event, your goal is to, number 1, establish trust and make a connection. In my mind, you're hosting virtual events more to make connections and get to new people into your audience, into your sphere, than to make a few sales. You want new people for long term.
And that, John, is part of the reason that we talked about the introduction at the beginning, because when we connect people that are attending, we have the opportunity to create that kind of social glue that lets people know who are the other people that are involved. That's one of the reasons for doing those introductions. So thanks.
That's absolutely. But you have to kind of go the extra mile. If you do it virtually, it's, you need to be following up right after the event, and you need to get, I always say, if you're working through social media, the first thing you want to do with somebody is get them off of social media and into your life. And the same thing is true here. So you're right, Carolyn, you make that connection, you establish that trust, and that's all part of the follow-up. But it does take a little bit more effort if you're doing it virtually. The closer you can get to your prospect, the better you are. So kinds of events. Here's a screen. I hope you can see it okay. And these are, 40 events that you can do, from aging to allergies to kids' nutrition, summer health tips. Summer's just coming out. One of the events that we talked about doing was nutrition for college. If you've got parents that have kids that are heading off to college, it's a really good time to be talking about nutrition for them. So there's all kinds of events that you can hold, and the point I want to make here is there's no limit. And what I suggest, if you're creating your own event, you want to have a topic that's fairly focused, because when you invite people, you want to invite people that are interested in that topic, and that's really the importance there. We actually, in the course, we've taken 7 event ideas, and we've developed complete events in homes. I call them party packs, event packs, around them. So living in a healthy home is basically an overview about Shaklee and things that you can do to make your home healthier. The Prove It For Yourself challenge, that's pretty self-explanatory. It has both the Prove It kit and the Immunity kit in it. Solutions for a Safer Home, that's for the Get Clean products. Now all of these presentations, I'm going to kind of walk you through one quickly, but all of these presentations have videos and all of the materials that you need to make them. My idea with the course was to make it as easy as I could for people to actually do events. In addition, sports nutrition, that's a topic I happen to be really interested in. Dealing with stress in everyday life, we talk about stress and how to manage it, and of course we talk about Stress Relief Complex and a couple of other products that you can take to help with stress. Both building immunity and then working from anywhere are really timely right now. And
let me just stop for a second, Don, so that people understand that each one of these is a complete program. And so you're going to see one of them. But all the slides are put together. Everything's put together. There's a video embedded. There's, Shaklee videos. You can just do this on your own, or you can adjust it. And as I said, you could actually translate the curriculum for this. If you want to take them, you get the original PowerPoints. You can go through and translate it. If you want to do this in Spanish or in something, make any adjustments. So thanks, Don.
Sure. So I have a few slides. Actually, it's probably more slides than I want to do. I'm not going to go through this in detail because I'll run too late. But these are a few slides from the Work From Anywhere. This is one of the event packs that's in there. And so here's the cover slide you start with. The first thing I always do is I'm working with people is I want to make sure that they're comfortable with Zoom. So I walk them through the controls, and you can see right here, if you want to leave the meeting, here's how you mute yourself, here's how you stop your video, because depending on the number of people you have in your event, if you have more than 8 or 10, then you're probably not going to want to use video. But I recommend having like 5 or 6 people in there. It's kind of the sweet spot. And you want to talk about the chat, how they can use the chat. Can you see how you just talk about this as you go through? And then I have everybody, type in a message just to check out the chat and try it out. And then we start the presentation. And again, I'm looking at the clock. I don't want to spend too long here, Carolyn, so I'm just going to walk through the slides. But, it's true, work no longer has to be a place. This is actually part of the script here. With technology changing the way we do virtually everything, and the fact that we can do everything virtually, you have choices. We have way more choices than our parents did for working from anywhere, don't we? So then here's where you introduce yourself. And this particular event pack takes about 25 to 35 minutes to go through. And so here's what we're talking about. It's a simple plan to take control of your career, your health, and your retirement. And we talk about the work-life balance. And this is where you actually stop and you talk to people. Where are they on the scale? Are they equal or is work maybe taking up more and life taking up less? And you give people a chance to actually talk that through. You know, what do they like about their job? What do they like about, what would they like more of in their life? You know, and so then we're going to tell you today how our business works and then why you might want to join us. So, Carolyn, shall I go through the rest of this, or shall I jump in? I'm looking at the clock, and I don't know how long you want me to talk here.
Why don't you go ahead and scroll through, and let's find out if Dick is on, because one of the things we want to do is let you have a first-hand experience of, there are at least 2 master coordinators that I'm aware of that Don has mentioned that are using these actively in their business organization. Well, actually, we'll call Dick a master coordinator, and we can bring him in when you feel it's appropriate.
Sure.
But no, go ahead. You can, just go ahead and slide, and you can even do your 1-minute video here. Show how it's embedded.
This is a conversation that you're having with people that are watching, you know, and we could all use that financial safety net. And one of the things I like to talk about here is that I saw a statistic, and this is a real statistic, that the average person would have to rely on a credit card or a relative to come up with $600, you know, and I think a lot of people are in that situation. So then the question becomes, what if you could create that financial safety net and do it in your spare time for little or no money? What if you could create a business that's all yours and earn a profit your very first day? Would that be something of interest to you? And what if you could use that to develop an asset that generates a steady stream of income for retirement? And talk about that, the fact that you need that money coming in. And then be able to pass that income stream on to your children or your grandchildren. And there's lots of stories in the Shackley field about, you know, 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th generation businesses that you can talk about. And then be able to work from anywhere. So then the question is, does this sound too good to be true? You know, if it does, let's take a closer look. And then you talk about this. When you're evaluating an opportunity, is this opportunity for real? Is there money in it for me? These are all things that we address. Will I get the support that I need? And then what kind of track record does my prospective brand partner have? And this is where you talk about Shackley. And, you know, here's our brand partner, Shackley. And you can talk about all of these accomplishments here. I won't go through that. And then we can talk about Roger Barnett. You know, Carolyn, you had a great way that you put Roger Barnett, a visionary leader of billionaires, or how did you put that?
I said he's a globally connected visionary leader from a family of billionaires.
There you go. He's a great guy to talk about. And the fact that he's got, you know, his Harvard Business MBA and a Yale School law degree. He spent $20 million researching the industry. And maybe the most important thing is he continues Dr. Shackley's legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about the Shackley difference a little bit. I'm going to jump right through here. We talk a little bit about the products in this presentation. I'm probably going through them so fast you're not even seeing them, but you want to just touch on them. You know, what the sports nutrition, talk about the green homes and the Get Clean products. These are the products that we are involved in, and they're all products that make a difference. And I did all this so I could get up to the video, which is right here.
Do we have the audio?
You should have audio.
Don't think we got the audio. Let's just go.
I think that's all right. The audio was just a soundtrack.
Yeah, I don't think we got the audio, Don.
Okay, so you should have the audio, and if I was doing this on Zoom, you would have the audio. But actually, at noon, when Scott and I played with it, you did have the audio, so I'm not quite sure what happened to it. So then you talk about it.
So let me just stop for a second, Don, and let me just say that one of the cool things about the way you put together these packs, these topical packs, is that you've embedded the video right in there. So it's just like the next slide. It's already there. And that's that cool 1-minute thing that Shackley did. But these are all just using the existing technology. But you don't have to go fumble around and figure out where it is. It's just a part of what you've already set up. And I think that's a wonderful simplicity pack.
Yeah, you literally, if I go back to that slide, when I come into it, it'll play it as soon as I hit it. And it will have audio. I'm not quite sure about tonight, but it will have audio. So then you talk about the 4 simple things that you need to do, and we've all talked about this in the past. And then you talk about how it works. You're sharing with others and how that process works, and the fact that you get rewarded for what they share with other people, and so on. It's all about building a network. So this is actually the close on this. It's very, very simple, because the concept is you want to get people to sit down with you afterwards. This isn't something that you're going to bring people in immediately. You want to actually see what it is, see what intrigues them about it and the kind of business that they want to build. So that's the work from anywhere, okay? Do we know if Dick McLean is on yet?
Yeah, I'm on.
Oh, great. Hey,
Dick.
Dick.
You out there?
Hey, Dick. Do I get
Hi.
to do an introduction? I get to introduce Dick. Dick doesn't know that I've been a big fan club for a number of weeks. Dick is part of the Osterhaus organization. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Part of the Osterhaus organization. And if you are fortunate and focused on the actual organizational development and the big picture of Shaklee, you probably will be connected with MC Mentors. And MC Mentors once a week has a terrific introduction, which I know some of you are involved in. And Dick is one of the people who has really picked up on the whole idea of growing from wherever your business had been to wherever it's going. And so I'm really happy to have you, Dick. Thank you for not only being here, but I'd love for you to, first of all, just tell a little bit about your story, a little bit about what's happened in the thinking and what you've done, but then also how you are using these events and how you've been doing these so-called in-home presentations, but they're virtual. So please welcome future Presidential Master Coordinator Dick McLean.
Thank you. And forgive the fact there's a bit of a delay coming from my end. We live in the mountains of Colorado. We're on, that what's supposed to be lightning fast satellite internet. It is lightning fast, but it's got to get all the way to space and back. So you've got about a 3-second delay. So I apologize for that. Yeah, Pam actually started our Shaklee business right after I got out of seminary back in 1975. At first, I didn't get it at all. I remember when she got her first bonus check, it was $4.56. And I said, why didn't you just get a job? Well, the next year we were in San Francisco and she'd earned her bonus card. We met Dr. Shaklee. That was in 77 or 78. And my work over the next 4 decades, I was a pastor for a decade and then ended up nearly 30 years with an international mission agency working in about 40 countries. I ended up as the CEO of that mission. So I was pretty busy. I traveled a lot. I was super supportive of Pam, but she pretty much did the business herself. By 20 years ago, she was an executive coordinator, and it kind of stalled there, I guess. And then I retired 6 years ago, and we moved from Georgia to Colorado, built our dream home in the mountains of Colorado, and blah blah blah. So we had a lot of other things going on, and I got a little more active, but honestly wasn't really all in. And as I shared with some folks the other day, this may sound kind of lame, but when I saw that the top achiever trip was Sydney, Australia, and Hayman Island, I said to Pam, we are going on that. I mean, we were in the what used to be the President's Club trip to New Zealand years ago. That was the only one of those we were ever on, and I thought we are going to do another one of these. So we really got going, and are beginning to see some real growth in our organization. So that's our story in a nutshell. We will be Keys by the end of this year, Masters by next summer, and plan to keep going beyond that. We started doing some stuff online, I don't know, last spring or last summer. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was real familiar with PowerPoint and stuff like that because I used it a lot in my previous work. I did coaching with folks all over the country, and so I did a lot of stuff with PowerPoint, but sort of felt our way. And then I saw an email or something letting me course on hosting virtual meetings. And I went through that last September, and it was fabulous. I was somewhat familiar with Zoom, but I learned a boatload more about Zoom. And more importantly, learned how to do these meetings and got the pack of 5 different meetings for having gone through the course. And so we started using them. We live in Lake County, Colorado. There are only about 10 or 12,000 people in the county. When we moved here, none of them, we started a whole new life. So our Shackley organization, our downlines, are all somewhere else in the country. And so being able to connect with people, first of all, just our own team virtually was really, really valuable. So we started doing this in January, actually recognizing that our little team of sales leaders were spread out around the country. We started doing a weekly, not just a team meeting, but a weekly meeting to which all of our sales leaders could invite people to. We went through a regular cycle. 1 week would be on living in a non-toxic home, which was basically, Don, your Get Clean party pack, and one was on the Prove It Challenge. And then we made our own a month or two later on how to build your immune system, and then did an opportunity one for the last one of the month. So we just did that cycle every week from January through May. And we've changed that now, so we're doing a little bit different pattern. But let me just say what the value has been for us. First of all, with a widely dispersed team, which hasn't always been the case. We started in Michigan. All of our people were around us. They came to your house. We saw them. We did meetings together. Right now, the nearest sales leader we have is Omaha, Nebraska. And we live a few miles from Copper Mountain in Colorado. So it was a great way to actually support. Ooh, I just lost everything for a second. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Everything went blank for like 1 second here.
No, you're
We
still
hear you
okay.
perfectly.
So it was a great way for us to actually support our team and help them build. Right now, we have 6 people building towards director in 5 different legs, and I'm trying to see if any 2 of them are in the same state. We might have 2 people in Michigan, but they're in 5 different states. Well, how would you do that if we were having to travel all those places? We have one gal who's building right now in Dallas, Texas, and we set May as her grand opening month. So we did a Thursday evening meeting every week for her, and she invited people to that meeting. First one, she had, I think, 11 people at the meeting. Few of them were people she'd already connected with and had already started, but there were 7 new people at the meeting. 4 of those 7 sponsored with the Prove It Challenge. And so it's been hugely productive for her. So, we had intended to be in Dallas in April to support her and do a couple of days of meetings with her. Well, COVID shut all that down, unfortunately, foolishly, depending on your perspective. But anyhow, so we were able to do that all for her virtually. And so it's made a big difference for us. It's been a great way for us to provide training by way of people who are new, just getting started. They can hop on our meetings. They can see how to do it. We don't give it away. We've encouraged them to get into Don's class and learn to do these for themselves. And we've spun off from there. From what we've learned from Don and just doing this, we've begun to make our own meetings. I just got off an opportunity call that we had with 7 or 8 people from as many states tonight, and that was a presentation I just put together. I put together. Most of it's from Queso, and part of it is from Sean Gray, but you beg, borrow, steal. I figure that plagiarism is the highest form of compliment. And that's what we all do in Shackley. We learn from each other anyway. And so it's just been hugely productive for us. It's great for bringing new people on. We had a new guy on the call tonight who one of our builders had met at a car wash last week and was really impressed with this young man, how seriously he took his work, the pride he took in his work. So he's had 2 calls with him already, invited him on the call tonight, and he just was on an opportunity call just this last hour, hearing for the first time what Shackley might mean for him. So, yeah, I'll stop there. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer. But basically, just, amen to everything you're saying. it works well. It's great. It's easy to invite people to virtual events. They don't have to. If they're hosting it, they don't have to clean up their house, and if they're coming to it, all they have to do is go to their computer or their cell phone. So we're finding it really easy to get people onto these things, and they're actually very effective. Now they're different. The follow-up is, well, it's important with everything we do, but it's critically important with online stuff because you're not taking orders and you're not enrolling people at the end of the call. So for ourselves and then all of the people under us who are inviting people to these calls, I mean, the watchword is you follow up within 24 hours to thank them for being on the call, tell them how much you appreciate it, see if they have any questions, if there's anything you wanted to hear more about it, and ultimately, what their response is. So the follow-up is critical. So it's different in that respect from, having an in-home meeting. But we have found
it. Follow-up is virtual as well, right, Dick? I mean, so you're actually able to do all the follow-up virtually.
Oh, it is.
Beautiful.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, like our gal in Dallas, well, with COVID, yeah, it's all been virtual because you can't get to see these people. I mean, it conceivably, one of our builders could be bringing people from their own community onto the call, and then they may get with it the next day. But for our part, yeah, all of the follow-up is virtual, and I do most of that with Zoom. I can talk on the telephone, but I don't like telephones. I'd rather see people,
right.
And so all the follow-up I do with Zooms. Yeah.
But you've actually set the stage because they've come to your event. They're used to that virtually, and so when you do the follow-up, it's like a one-on-one, very close off virtual. So that's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Dick, you have contributed a huge amount here with your experiences and with what you're doing. And what I'd like to do is I want to finish this segment by thanking Don and just by pointing people to hostingvirtualevents.com is where you can go to connect with Don, to see the event packs that he's put together, to get access to all of these overviews. And what I'd like for us to be thinking about is what could this do for your business to expand not only our geography, as Dick mentioned, but to expand the fact that we know if we have individual conversations, that's like adding and subtracting. When we have some kind of a group event, and a group can be 2 or 3 people, or maybe it's 6 or 8 people, whatever. But when you have a group event, you have the possibility of multiplication because you get to hear each other's stories. So, for example, if we were all around our dining room table tonight, as we close this event, you would have the opportunity to say to Dick, tell me about your place in Colorado and how interesting. Who are some of the people that you worked with when you were working internationally in the nonprofit area, and talking to Don about who are some of the other areas that you've worked in. Just being able to get that communication and connection. So this opens up so many possibilities for us all. Thank you all for being with us. And if having these kinds of resources is helpful for you, hostingvirtualevents.com is where Don has put together all of these great materials. Dick, thank you so much for being here and giving us not only your story, but all of your energy and validation. And hopefully it's opened some ideas and some thinking for all of us about additional ways we can create our business. So if there are no other additional things, thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks to Scott Holdren for being mission control and all the technology. Thanks to Don Sykes and Dick McLean. And go have a wonderful Shaklee evening. Thank you.